So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to sing a Kayal. I'm going to start by singing a Drupad. And there's a reason why I'm going to do that. And for those of you who are studying in SIMA, at some point, if you haven't learned this already, you will learn it. And there are multiple reasons to learn it, but one of the reasons is the meaning of it. Okay, so I'll just sing it. Don't play for this, but Rishi, you play for me. Okay. Also, I want to say that the winter is taking a toll on my voice. It's not in good shape, but since this is a lecture, just manage with the voice I have. Sorry. Can I get a little more tanpura? Naad Brahma Naad Anahat Omkar Pranava Jako Jogi Dhyana Karata Pavata Satchidananda Naada Brahma Naada Hari Mukha Te Ahata Nikasyo Madhura Muralinada Yate Akhila Charachara Payo Parama Sukha Ananda Ada Nada Brahma Nada Udata Aru Anudata Swarita Liya Tina Bheda Jame Pathata Veda Mantra Marga Rita Ahata Nada Tahi So Sa prakatanaam rupaso Shadaja Rishabha Gandhara Madhyama Panchama Dhevata Nishada Shuchi Vikrita Bheda Ada Nada Brahma Nada. So this composition was written by Pandit S.N. Ratanjankar, who was one of the great Vagyakars of Hindustani music in the 19th and 20th centuries. And the meaning is what is important about this, because he talks about how sound is organized. He gives a taxonomy of sound. He says, Ad Nad Brahmanad, the first sound that filled the universe, was Anahata. It had no cause. And it is not audible to us. But it's represented by Omkar. We understand it as Omkar. Omkar Pranav. Jako Jogi Dhyan Karat. That on which the sages meditate. And having meditated on it, Pavata Satachidananda. They have received enlightenment. He goes on to say, because we don't understand Anahatanad, Hari Mukha Te Ahata. Through Krishna's flute, Nikasyo Madhura Murali Nad. He took Anahatanad, put it through his flute, and it became audible to us. Ya Te Akhila Charachara. All the living beings of the universe. Those living beings that move and those that cannot. Charachara. Payo Parama Sukha Ananda. Having heard that sound, they find deep happiness. Then he goes on to say, Uddata, Anuddata, Swarita. The three tones that are used to chant the Vedas. Uddata, meaning the raised tone, Anuddata, the unraised tone, and Swarita, the descending tone that connects those two. Uddata, Anuddata, Swarita liye teen bheda. These three types. Jame Pathata Veda Mantra, in which the Vedas are read. Margarita Ahatanad. And through this road of Ahatanad, the heard sound, you're able to find enlightenment. Right? So there's a path through heard sound into enlightenment. Tahi so saptasura. And from these three tones, the 7 notes that we understand arise. Tahi so saptasura desi rita mo praman. So the music of the people, that is us, the unenlightened, our music is found in these 7 tones that arise from the 3 that are used to chant the Vedas. Prakatanam rupaso. And they take on these 7 names: Shadaja, Rishabha, Gandhara, Madhyama, Panchama, Dhaivata, Nishada. 7 swaras that all of you have learned in class. And then he says, Shuchi Vikrita Bheda. Within them are hidden the Vikrita swaras, which we know as the 12 tones, right? So within this one composition, Pandit S.N. Ratanjankar ji has shown how sound is organized. Now, the reason why I decided to open this lecture by using this composition is to understand that Hindustani music is very different from most other forms of music in one very fundamental way. That is that the emphasis is not always on composition. In almost any other form of music, you'll find that whether it's jazz or Western classical or Carnatic music or Rabindra Sangeet or any other form of music, you'll find that the composer is given a lot of weight, that person has done a lot of great work for the music. The composition itself exists as a very important landmark in the music. While compositions are very important in Hindustani music, what is more important is the grammar of what you learn. Because the grammar becomes a language within which all of us can then communicate with each other. So when we talk about music as a language, fundamentally what Hindustani music provides is a grammar. And so in order to understand any other subgenre of Hindustani music, whether it is Drupad Dhamar, whether it is Khayal, whether it is Tumri Dadra, whether it's Ghazal, whatever other subgenre you're looking at, tabla solos, sitar vadan, whatever it is, if you understand the grammar, then you know how to communicate in this language. So rather than fixed things that don't change over time, what you provided is an extensible grammar with which you can communicate. So today we are here to begin understanding the grammar of the most popular form of classical music we have, which is Khayal. Now, when we talk about Khayal, etymologically, right? In common parlance, we all know what Khayal means. Aapka kya khayal? Right? What is your opinion? And it's often translated as imagination. What is your imagination in music? But Khayal and its sister form, Qawwali, share a precursor form called Qawl. Yani baate karna, just to talk. So Khayal can also be thought of as a way to speak in music. It's providing you a medium through which you speak in music. So there's an imagination component, but also etymologically you can think of Khayal as providing you a vehicle through which you can speak in music, communicate your thoughts. Yeah? Now the earliest organizing of Khayal can be seen in a social grouping called the Qawwal Bacche. The Qawwal Bacche Gharana, it's called. Qawwal Bacche meaning the children of Qawwals, right? Children of Qawwals. Qawwal in this sense is those who practice Qawl. The children of Qawwals are Qawwal Bacche. And the first Gharana of Khayal comes from the Qawwal Bacche, and that first Gharana is the Gwalior Gharana. Now, within Gwalior Gharana, there are different, I want to make a small distinction between Gharana and Gaiki. They are two different things. Gharana is a social grouping. So all of us sitting together, in some sense, is a Gharana, right? All of you that belong to SIMA as students belong to a Gharana. You're sharing musical information with each other and inspiring each other musically. And because you're socially connected through an organization, you are a Gharana. But a Gaiki is a style of singing. So within the context of a Gharana, there can be multiple Gaikis. So within Gwalior, you can think of different branches of Gwalior Gharana having different Gaikis. But there are some overriding principles that connect all the Gaikis that exist in Gwalior Gharana. And the biggest overriding principle is something called Ashtanga Gaiki. Ashtanga Gaiki. Ashta Anga, meaning the 8 limbs. Now, what do we mean by this? We mean that when you're singing Khayal in the Gwalior style, there should be every one of these 8 elements in your exposition of Khayal. And so in order to understand Khayal, you need to understand these 8 limbs. Now, a description of this Ashtanga Gaiki was given by one of the great masters of the Gwalior Gharana in the 20th century, Pandit Krishna Rao Shankar Pandit, one of the last great vocalists of this lineage. And what Panditji said is, he described these 8 angas as essentially being divided into 2 groups. One can be thought of as kriyatmak, that is actionable. You can do something with these. There are 5 such kriyatmak angas of Kayal. And then there are 3 alankarik angas, that is, that they are decorative elements in your Kayal. And so for you to understand Kayal, you have to understand these 5 kriyatmak angas and these 3 alankarik angas. So what are they? So, in order to understand this, what I'm going to do first is sing for you a Kayal in Rag Bhagishri. And this Kayal has been notated out and is part of your syllabus. If you're studying in SIMA or Kalavani, if people are logged in from Vancouver, then it's part of your syllabus. And if you want the notation of what I'm going to sing, just ask Kishan or ask me. I will be able to provide it to you. So this next thing is completely pre-composed. Usually Kayal would not be, but because it gives us a toy problem to work with, I'm going to just sing through this for you.
Sono more
Binati Sono Avada Pura Ke Sono more avada pura ke Binati Sono more Binati Sono Sono more Binati Sono Binati Sono Sono Binati Sono more Binati Sono more avada pura ke basaya जहाँ जहाँ पर भीर जहाँ जहाँ पर भीर जहाँ पर भी जहाँ पार भी पार भी जहाँ जहाँ पार भी जहाँ जहाँ पार भी तहाँ तहाँ दियो धीर जान की पति राम भाव के तारे आभिनति सोनो मोरि भिनति बिनती सुनो मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया 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 बिनती Keep feeling. बिनती सुनो मोरी अवधपुर के बसैया तुम बिन कवन मोरे दुख के हरया बिनती सुनो मोरी बिनती सुनो मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया तुम बिन कवन मोरे दुख के हरया बिनती बिनती सुनो मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया बिनती सुनो मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया तुम बिन कवन मोर दुख के हरया बिनती सुनो मोरे मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया बिनती सुनो मोरे। बिनती सुनो मोरी अवधपुर के बसैया तुम बिन कावन मोरे दुख के हरैया बिनती सुनो मोरी बिनती सुनो मोरी सुनो मोरी। धनि सा ग म ग रे सा ग म धनि सा नि द म धनि सा ग म ग रे सा सा नि द म नि द म प द म ग रे म ग रे सा भे न। Keep going. म ग रे सा धनि सा म ग म धनि सा सा नि द म नि द म ग म ग रे सा नि सा ग म नि द म ग रे सा बिनती सुनो मोरे। धनि द ग म धनि सा सा नि द ग रे सा नि द म प द म ग म ग रे सा सा ग म धनि सा बिनती सुनो मोरे बिनती सुनो आ बिनती सुनो मोरे। बिनती सुनो मोरे बिनती बिनती सुनो मोरे बिनती सुनो मोरे। बिनती सुनो मोरे अवधपुर के बसैया तुम बिन कावन मोरे दुख के हरैया बिनती 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 सुनो मोरे। Okay, so that's the whole Khaya. Thank you. Thank you. That's the whole Khayal. Now let's dissect it. Because if you don't understand what's going on in each part, then it just sounds like a mishmash of sound. You don't know why it's happening. So the first thing that happens is I start off by singing a short alap. An alap is a representation of the raga without any words. That can happen with the syllable a, or it can happen with specific syllables that are associated with alap. In this case, I sang what's called a very short nom-tom alap. It uses syllables like ra, na, nom, te, ta, and so on. And there's a reason why those are used, but when we discuss Drupad, I'll talk about that. For right now, just accept that that's what's happening. Now, why do we do this? Because we're trying to convey the aesthetic of the rag that is being presented. The alap that is sung in Kayal is not a complete picture of the rag. Rather, what it is that it's providing a foothold for you in the aesthetic of the rag. Those of us who study rags or who are exposed to a lot of music in this tradition, the moment we hear certain key phrases, we know, oh, he's singing Bhageshri. But for everyone else who is not that aware of the music, what you're looking for is something that's aesthetic, that allows you to try and capture the mood of the rag. Yeah, in the Khayal form, the alap can be as brief as what I did, and when I did that beginning part without the tabla, that alap is called an avchar. An avchar is just a way of invoking the rag. Yeah. You can also have a more elaborate alap even in Khayal, which would be called nom-tom alap. Nom-tom alap can go on for a period of time and can show the rag in great detail. But there are certain fundamental differences between how I would sing alap here in Kayal versus when we study Drupad, how I do alap there. It's completely different. They have a root in the same purpose, but they have very different ways of doing it. Here, you will see that I'm using te ta ra na, these that kind of an ornament where you see that wavy pattern, that's called a gamak. And that gamak is present in the alap of a Khayal, but it's not present in the alap of a Drupad. Yeah, in a Drupad, if I sing in the same line, te ta ra, it slides rather than moves in that wavy pattern. That slide is called a meend. Yeah, and meend is present even in Khayal, but not to the same proportion that it's present in Drupad. So now, these two terms that I've used, gamak and meend, they are two of the three alankarik angas of our Ashtanga. And we'll cover the last alankarik ang later on. But I want you to remember, gamak is that wavy kind of vibrato pattern or ornament, and meend is that long slide that can be used in decorating the Khayal. Okay, so that's 2 out of the 8 so far. So the Kayal opens with that alap, sets the mood. First thing I do is sing the sthai of the composition. Now, the sthai of the composition provides the central idea of your Kayal. Okay, it provides the central idea from the perspective of both the meaning of what is being sung as well as the melodic movements that are going to be explored. So in this case, Benati Sono Sono mori avadapura ke basaiya toma bina kavana more dukha ke haraya benati. That's my style. Yeah? So, this is a composition that is a prayer to Lord Ram, right? Binati suno mori, listen to my plea, Avada purake basaiya, the one who lives in Avad. Tuma bina kavana mori dukha ke haraya. How will I be rid of the sadnesses in my life without you? So, that is the meaning that is being conveyed in the sthai of the composition. Now that meaning is also entangled with the melody. So when I develop the raga, the next step of this is the development of the raga within the composition. using the words of the composition. My objective is to continuously keep portraying the meaning of what is in this sthai through the medium of the raga. And so when I go through that, I get patterns like Bina, no rest for the weary, please. Tu no mori bina di bina ti so no mori So what did I say? Binati suno mori. And I'm trying to show that musically, right? Listen to my plea. I'm showing that musically. It's up to the musician's discretion on how he or she wants to portray that. Yeah? So the creativity lies in taking the words and slowly showing different aspects of the rag that keep emphasizing the meaning of the composition. This aspect of the Kayal is called Bolalap, and it represents another anga of the Ashtanga, Bolalap. What am I doing? I'm taking the bol, the words, and placing them against the alap, or the movement of the raga. So we've had one kriyatmak ang called alap, and another called bolalap. And we've had two alankarik angas. Yeah? Does that make sense? Are you just asleep? Yes. Which part? The whole thing?
Which angs are what? Like the two angs that
The alap,
okay. And is that action or decorative?
that's action.
Okay.
Kriyatmakang. Alap, bolalap. These are both kriyatmakangs. And then alankarikans, gamak, meaned.
The decorative.
Yeah. Make sense? Any other questions so far?
So one more. When you said avachara, when you said the alap, is it typical that the alap would end into the opening note of the sthai, or
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be.
It's up to your creativity how you want to do that. Other questions online?
Not question. Just letting people in still.
Oh, still letting people in. Okay. Yes, please.
Gamak is same as the Gamakam in Carnatic?
Yeah, more or less, the aesthetics of gamak are different in Hindustani versus Carnatic. But
And when you sing that, it is out of your own manodharma, like your own creativity?
yes, so when we expound the alap or the bol alap, it is done through our own creativity. So I sang this as a toy problem because you guys all have access to this notation. So you can go back and say, oh, that's the bol alap. So you can trace that to the recording. But yeah, when I'm actually singing this, then I would create the music on my own. Yeah. Clear? Okay, so now in creating the bol alap, one has to think about how the raga is partitioned. Okay, so those of you who are studying music know that there are 3 saptaks or 3 sthanas, right? There's the mandra saptak, madhya saptak, tar saptak. There are the low notes, the middle notes, and the high notes, right? When you look at a raga, the raga is defined across one saptak on one octave or one 7-note stretch, however you want to look at it. The raga does one particular thing in the bottom part of the scale, a different particular thing in the top part of the scale. So for example, if I'm looking at Bhageshri, na কাছে নিয়ে আসুক সামনে আসুক ঘুম পাচ্ছে না রা না আ sa ga ma ma ga re sa da ni sa ga ma ma pa da ga ma ga re sa. These are some signature movements within Bhageshri in the lower part of the scale. Yeah, this lower part is called the Purvanga of the scale. In the Purvanga of the scale, Bhageshri has certain movements. It has different movements in the Uttarang, in the upper part of the scale. Sa ga ma ma dha ma ni ni da dha ma ni 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 sa ni da ma ni da ma pa da ga ma ga re sa. So, when I'm creating the bowl alap, I have to understand how the rag is moving in the Purvang as opposed to the Uttarang. They're two very different pictures. Yeah? As well as there has to be a particular methodology in unraveling the text for you. So this is saying Binati suno mori avada purake basaiya tuma bina kavana mori dukha ke haraiya. There are three ideas here. Binati suno mori avada purake basaiya tuma bina kavana mori dukha ke haraiya. There are three different ideas. And these three ideas have to be progressed through the bowl alap in a very particular way. I can't just throw all the words out at you like in the beginning when I do the bowl alap. You all know what the ideas already are in the composition because I've sung the sthai for you. So that's already present in your mind. But when I'm creating the bowl alap, I am thinking of one particular idea at any given moment. And that is getting expressed through the bowl alap. Does that make sense? So, for example, rakcho kya na? Dhore rakho. Benati suno mori benati benati suno So initially I might show in the lower notes one idea. The next idea might be introduced in the lower part of the middle octave. Benati suno mori benati suno avada purake basaiya avada purake basaiya binati suno binati. Next idea is shown at the top of the scale. Binati suno mori avada purake basaiya tuma bina kavana more dukha ke hare abe sense? So I'm progressing not only the idea of the composition, I'm progressing the movement of the rag, and as well as the tal is also beginning to slowly increase in tempo. All these things have to be worked in parallel. So it's kind of a multi-dimensional creation of music that's happening. Yeah? Yes, please. No, it is Shadu Sampurna. Yeah. Anything else before we go on? Yes, please.
So it's, I mean, this is like really interesting. But there's all these layers happening of meaning
Yeah.
that's being produced and revealed in different temporality
Yeah.
also. So you have the text, and you have the dog, like that, which is abstract compared to words.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit then, how does this relate to the idea of mood? Because that's trying to also be evoked or not? Or
Absolutely.
yeah, so just if you can speak a little bit, like how does mood factor into this?
It's a complex question.
Or not?
Trusted answer to ask that question. So yes, mood does have a lot to do with it. So basically, the text begins by seeding a particular mood, right? So this is the text itself is a prayer, right? So you're trying to evoke the pathos that is there in Binati Sunomori, right? At the same time, there's a grandeur to the thing, right? Because Bhageshri itself is kind of a grand rag. So the rag plays with that. So it's kind of so what you end up getting are these combinations of mood that occur between the meaning of the text, the mood that's being created by a particular note in the rag, the juxtaposition of the note next to the one you just sang, how the tension is being relieved against the tal and how it's being created against the tal, the intervals that are being arpeggiated actually. So if you're creating a phrase, that's one mood, but look at the same thing. So Nida creates one mood. Nida pada nida creates something else. So as a musician, you have to be very aware of how notes are playing against each other as the rag gets developed. Yeah? Does that kind of begin to answer the question?
Yeah.
You're never going to be so exact about it and say, I'm going to create this mood today with this. But at any given moment, how those notes are playing against each other will cause you to feel a certain way or not.
Two things. Can we repeat the question we asked?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Online listeners can hear. And Sanjay Mitra is asking, is Bol Alab only specific to Gwalior?
No. What I'm describing is the Ashtanga Gaiki that comes from the Gwalior Gharana, but every Gaiki in some shape or form uses some proportion of these angas in their music. And I'll go into that a little more detail later on. Any other questions? Okay. Anything else?
Let's restate the question.
Sure. Yes, please.
So you said that there is no tal in Alap. So when a student of Hindustani classical music sings Alap, then does he have some sort of tal in his mind if it is not being physically played? How do you approach?
Yes. The question is, when we sing alap, there's no tal, but when a Hindustani musician starts to sing alap, do they have some kind of tal in their mind? The answer to that is no. So what you're trying to do is trying to create a state of timelessness with the alap. Inevitably, because we are temporal beings, we get trapped in some kind of a time rhythm thingy. But we're trying to free ourselves from that as musicians when we do the alap. Even when we're doing the alap in the context of the composition, as I'm showing the bol alap, I'm trying to make it as free of the tal as possible because I'm trying to focus on the words. Yeah, I don't want the tal interfering with the meaning of the composition. But again, because having the tabla there is an acknowledgement of our temporal existence. It will keep time no matter what. So, yeah. Yes.
So in that case, then you said that this particular sthai had three ideas, and you depicted them by the bolalap having an increased. It increased in the notes, right? It increased in the traveling the three octaves, the three subtons. Okay. More ideas means they'll keep on increasing, and you'll take smaller portions of the saptaks, or less ideas means you'll jump from one to the other very quickly.
Yeah, so the question is, in this particular instance, there were three ideas in the composition, which I showed across the three saptaks, which I actually only showed across one saptak actually. But anyway, and different portions of the saptak. But if there are more ideas or less ideas, is that treated differently? Is that the gist of it? Yeah. Yeah, so as an artist, you have to be aware of how densely you want to convey ideas. Sometimes if you have a very, very long composition, there are some key ideas that you're trying to show in that composition. And some ideas are not so important. So then you may not show everything in your bolalap. You may show the important things and not everything. When you come to Drupad, you have to show everything. In Kayal, you don't. In fact, there are certain gaikis where the bowls are not even taken in the major part of the exposition. So the bowl, the way I'm talking about it is how we would sing it. So how it would be done in Gwalior Gharana, in Agra Gharana, these kind of gaikis, this is how we would do it. But there are certain gaikis where the bowl is completely, it's there, but it's much more suppressed. So yeah, it's an artistic choice how much you would show in that situation. Anything else? Yes, please.
So I really like the way you explained this, only because when I listen to the words versus when I listen to the music, it makes sense in my head. Meaning, when you are singing Binati, it is you're going lower in your, I'm not able to express in terms of classical music, but your voice is in a lower tone or in a lower notes, is it because the word Binati is you're asking for something. You wouldn't ask in a higher note, or is that how you're trying to structure it, or
Okay.
could you do it any other way?
Yes. So the question is, for example, when I'm singing Binati Suno Mori, Binati is going into the Mandra Saptak, the lower notes. And is that because the meaning of Binati is that you are pleading, and therefore it helps to structure it that way. So here's the beauty of it. There are different ways of showing Binati.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah. Binati Suno Mori Binati Suno Binati Suno Binati. That's one form. Binati Suno Mori Avada Pura Ke Binati Suno Mori. So the point is that because it's laid out this way, you get different shades of meaning as you're moving through the scale. And you can purposefully target one particular emotion or another based on how the words are moving against the music. Make sense?
Yeah, I understand now. I
Yeah.
was only thinking in one,
Yes.
from one point of view, but there is a different
Yeah, and as an artist, a lot of our job is to interpret, keep interpreting meanings. There was one instance that I think I've shared this story many times with various of you, but I'll share it more publicly. In Seattle once, we were hosting Imrat Khan Sahab, who was a very, very great Surbahar and sitar player. And Khan Sahab, there was an instance where I got a chance to have lunch with him, and after lunch we were sitting and he was talking about his various experiences and all the things that he had been through in life. And he suddenly remembered one instance. He said, now I can't remember, it was one of the great Kathak dancers, one of the Maharaj, I can't remember who it was, but he said he had witnessed a portrayal of just a simple statement, which was, I am dying, don't forget me. And he said he danced it in 45 different ways, and each time there was a different feeling coming out of that one statement. And Khan Sahab, just talking about it, he started crying because he could see like all the different shades that were coming out of that. So our job, we will never get to that point. Well, I don't think I will. Some of you might. But, just to get to that point of being able to interpret that subtlety of emotion is really part of the journey. So yeah, alap bol alap. What else? Okay, so by the time we get to the top of the scale, we have shown the meaning of this thigh. Now the meaning, the meaning of the antara is not considered to be as important. It's the secondary idea of the composition. So here, it's not that it is important. You shouldn't forget your antaras. I do, by the way, but you shouldn't forget your antaras. But the focus is really in the antara. It's about showing the raga, again, reminding the listener of what the raga is like. So, ja ja ha paribhira exposition is more on akar, because we're trying to come back to the aesthetic of the rag as an abstract entity. And there's a reason why we do that, which I'll get into in a second. But again, you can see this is an instance of alap happening within the context of the exposition of the composition. Right? There's no meaning here, there's no bol, it's just alap. Okay, so once we sing this is called the antara alap. Once we do this, we come back to the sthai. Jaha jaha paribhira taha taha diyo dhira janaki pati rama bhavake so his tempo is going to go up now. Benati suno mori, benati suno mori avada pura ke basaya tum bina kavan mor dukha ke haraya benati suno mori benati suno mori benati suno benati 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 suno sono mori avadapura ke basaya तुम बिन कवन मोर दुख के हरैया बिन सुनो मोरी अवधपुर के बिन. So what's happening here? What's happening here is that the composition is being repeated, the words are being repeated in a more compact form, so that the entire idea of what has been presented, because we've been doing bol alap and pieces of it have been showing up in your consciousness, now the entire idea is repeated for you in a much more forceful way, so that it's standing right in front of you, what the entire meaning of this composition is. This is called bol baant. What I'm doing is, I'm taking the words of the composition and pushing it in different directions against the tal, while keeping it intact initially. In this phase, it is staying more or less intact. Yeah, you understand the full composition. Binati sono mori binati sono mori avadapura ke basaya avadapura ke basaya binati sono mori avadapura ke binati sono mori bin. Baja. Sono mori bin binati sono mori avadapura ke basaya tum bin kavana more dukha ke haraya binati sono binati sono binati sono binati sono mori bin. So what happened there? It went from being double to triple, right? So the lay has changed. So this is called laykari. The lay has changed. Yeah. So sometimes it's also called laybat. This is called laybat because sometimes we can take dugun, tigun, chogun all together in the same thing. So binati binati suno mori avadapura ke basaya tum bin kavana more dukha ke haraya binati suno mori binati suno mori bin. Yeah. So the bowl of the composition is being shifted around, the lay is being shifted around. This is another anga of your ashtanga. Bol bant laikari is another anga. It's one anga. Yeah. Now this is where so this piece of it actually comes from the older form of Drupad. The other precursor form is Kal or Kavali. There, what are we doing? We're beginning to abstract out the meaning. So the feeling of devotion that we're developing has come to a point now where words are beginning to lose their meaning. And so what happens is, the text of a composition begins to lose its shape if you start to introduce a lot of vowels. Yeah? So one way of escaping out of the meaning and just feeling the pure emotion that is there is to begin to introduce vowels. And that becomes the next ang of our Kayal. This is Boltan. Benati sono mori bin. Benati sono mori binati sono sono mori bena de sono mori. So you see that the opening of the composition with these vowels, like we're just pulling the consonants apart and apart and apart. So suddenly the meaning that's been in the air all this time because of all the work you've done, no longer I don't have to say it anymore. You've got it. So what you can now enjoy is just the ras that is there of that feeling. You don't have to worry about anything else. And then the next logical step there is just akar. No words. So that becomes the last ang, the last kriyatmak ang, which is tan. Benati sono mori ben benati sono mori sono mori. And then these are murki tans. That's the last tongue, murki. Benati sono mori. Benati sono mori. So murkis are actually in the alankaric ang. So you can put murkis individually also in your singing. So benati sono. They can occur even in your vistar or in your alap section. So yeah, so there you go. So you have your alap, bol tan bol bat lekari, bol tan, and your three alankaric angs, gamak, meend, murki. So for a khayal presentation to be complete, all those 8 angs have to be present in some shape or form. And if it's not, then it's not complete. So now we can distinguish between 2 kinds of gaikis that exist. There are those gaikis that we can call complete gaikis like this, that use all these 8 angas. And then there are specialized gaikis. There are certain gaikis that emphasize particular angas. It's not that the other angas are not present in their singing, but one or the other anga is more pronounced. So when you look at Hindustani music, there are various gaikis all across this discipline. Some are complete, some are very specialized. And we can talk about each gaiki separately. I won't today, but that's a logical way of looking at how these gaikis are constructed.
So, question, when you said that the Gwalior Gharana treats these 8 in one way, a different Gharana might treat these, but they're all using these in some form or the other. Does the use of them help the proficient singers identify which Gharana is coming from?
Yeah, the question is, all of the gharanas use some aspects of this, but their particular use, does it identify a particular gharana, right? And the answer is yes. Yeah. So even how I take bol alap or how I would take tans or murkis, that's very particular to me or my gaiki. And there are different gaikis that will use completely different approach aesthetically to that aspect of the khayal. And that differentiates the different gharanas or different gaikis. Yeah?
What about the sequence of the Does it have to be in a sequence all the time? Or
question is, what about the sequencing of these angas? This is the sequencing that we use. There are other gharanas that use a completely different sequence. So, for example, in Jaipur Gaiki, you would use Akar Gaiki. So, you'd sing Akar Vistar or Akar Alap, just the regular Alap. For the majority of your development of the raga, the Bol Alap only comes in one section later on. So, sequencing is different there. But both are used, it's just that it's sequenced differently. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my question is more towards the composition, the lyrics. You have like style, then antras, and then come back to the style. So there are certain compositions which may not have style and antara. They like goes like a story, like begins with something and ends with something else. They don't repeat. So those kind of compositions, like for those, what kind of compositions is used for that?
Okay, so I think the question is, some compositions will not have a separate sthai antara per se, it's just one sequence of stories, right? Such compositions are not usually found in Kayal singing. So I think maybe the compositions you're talking about, I don't know which ones they would be. I haven't come across such compositions in Kayal. When we sing Kayal, there's typically a demarcation that says this is the sthai, this is the antara. So maybe if you can share those with me, then we can look at it and see how we would elaborate that. Yeah? Yeah.
We have an online question again.
This, Sujat.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we'll take all questions.
Can I just, so first is alap, then we have bol alap, then
Bolbart or Lekari.
bolbat, and
Then we have Boltan and
then
Tan,
tan.
and those are all your Kriyatmakangs.
Okay, yeah. So antara alap is not an ang.
That's considered part of Alap.
Okay. And then decorative is mean gamak murki.
Correct. Yes.
Two online questions. First is, what is the relationship between Kayal and Vedic sciences such as yoga, Ayurveda, and Tantra? The second question is, are there cultural reasons behind which angs get prominence in different gaikis? And the third is, how are Khatka and Murki different from each other?
Is it Shaurya?
No,
No.
not sure.
Okay. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. I don't know the answer to the first one. So how Kayal is related to Vedic sciences? So certainly the term Ashtanga is used in both yoga and Kayal, but I don't know what the commonality is. So I'm not qualified to answer that question. Second was?
Second was, are there cultural reasons behind which angs get prominence in different gaikis?
Yes. So most gaikis arise out of gharanas. So the story there is that gharanas traditionally, historically, were clusters of musicians who practiced in the same darbar. Yeah. So this music kind of arose from the culture of the darbar in medieval India, and in that context, musicians would cluster together in family units as well as student units. Right. So there would be the main guru of that gharana would be called the Khalifa. The Khalifa would have it was always his primary disciples who were usually family members, and then secondary disciples who were either distantly related or were not related to the main family. And so this cluster of musicians, because they were practicing music together over long periods of time, their aesthetics would kind of gel into one way of doing things. And that is why certain sequences happen in certain gharanas. And then the last one is Khatka and Murki. Oh boy. Okay. Khatka, may I please have your accompaniment? Would that be okay? Those are khatkas. Those are khatkas. When I string them together, I get murki. that's a murki.
So a burst versus a string.
Yeah, khatka is like a single point ornament. Ah, those are khatkas.
So one more question regarding the origin. When we're using these terms, some of them sound like Sanskrit words, right? Some we used to use those terms way back when. Some of them sound distinctly Urdu or Persian in origin. So Kayal, by the nature of it, is a very Arabic Urdu kind of word, whereas Drupad, that we mentioned, or Gamak that we mentioned, sounds more like a Sanskrit word. So is it that the Darbars kind of brought these together, or one idea originated in sort of more the traditional Hindu gharanas or Hindu culture, while the other came from like the Mughal gharanas and Mughal culture?
Okay.
Yeah?
So the question is that certain terms sound Arabic or Persian or Turkic, and certain terms sound Sanskrit. That is because in North India, I would say, starting with the Delhi Sultanate, both these streams of culture were present in the court. And the popular narrative about Hindu culture being suppressed was not true when it came to music, especially. Really not true. And there are a number of Drupads, Dhamars that were written in those courts for that king. So these cultures coexisted, and then obviously with the rise of the Mughal Empire, sort of the in culture was Persian culture. But at the same time, Hindu musical forms were very much in vogue, and Miya Tansen's guru was a Drupadiya. Swami Haridas was a Drupadiya. Miya Tansen himself was a Drupadiya. So there was a syncretic blend in these courts that is not appreciated today as much as it should be. Yeah. Does that answer that question? Yeah. Then you.
When you say a raga is Purvanga Pradhan or Uttaranga Pradhan, is there a particular place or what you described as Anga when you sing, where it's shown or it's seen throughout? No matter if you're just singing Sthai and Antara, or it can be shown more prominently in one of these Alankarik or Kriyatmakam.
Okay, the question is, when we talk about Purvang Pradhan Rag or Uttarang Pradhan Rag, are all these angs shown in different ways? Is that
Where it's seen.
where is it seen?
Like when I'm listening to the music, how do I read it, that yes, this is where it is shown prominently.
Yes. So there's a little bit of mixing of terms here. So when we talk about Uttaranga Pradhan or Purvanga Pradhan, that Anga is different from the Ashtanga, right? So that's one thing, just to be very clear about it. No, all the 8 Angas still have to be shown regardless of whether you're doing a Purvang Pradhan Rag or Uttarang Pradhan Rag. But the sequencing will be not of the Angas, but how I develop the Raga will be different. So, for example, sorry, I'm सोच रहा हूँ उत्तरांग प्रधान राग क्या है? अच्छा, Shankara. So here is Rag Shankara. Shankara is a Uttarang Pradhan Rag. Ta na ra na na ra na ra na no re ta ra na a ra na ra no. So when I started the alap, I didn't start. I started at the top. So it's turned on its head, yeah? ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी, और ठिठोरी निपट निडर मोरी, ना माने ना माने ना माने, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी. So in this composition itself, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर और ठिठोरी. So the bottom comes much later. So the composition itself is laid out from a Uttarang Pradhan structure. So when I develop it, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर लंगर कर झका झोरी, झका झोरी, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी. So I'm starting up there, yeah? And later on, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी, और ठिठोरी निपट निडर मोरी, ना माने ना माने, ऐसो ढीठ लंगर कर झका झोरी. So the composition itself is laid out in such a way that when I do the bol alap, the lower part is later, so I can progress down the scale rather than up the scale, because it is an Uttarang Pradhan Rag. So the angas will change because the rag itself is different. So the way in which I take that anga will be different. Does that make sense? Yeah. Ronan.
Hi, so I remember you saying earlier that you associated like a specific mood with a specific raga, like with Bhagyashree you said it was a really grand raga. So my question is, if you sing a specific composition in one raga compared to another, even if the lyrics may be the same or other aspects like that may be the same, would the, I don't want to say meaning, but maybe like the tone of which it's being said, would that change as well? Like,
Yeah, the question is like there's a mood associated with every raga. So if I take the words of a composition in that raga and put it in another raga, will that cause a shift in the tone, right? What it will do is it will give you a completely different emotional content for that same meaning. Yeah? So one way to think about a raga is to think about a raga as a personality, right? So they all have personalities. For me, when we're talking about Bhagyashree or Shankara or Yaman or whatever, they have a particular personality. And so like you meet so many different people in your life, right? Some people are by nature one way, like very peaceful, very calm, very quiet. Some people are angry all the time. Some people are sad all the time. Some people have a very funny sense of humor. But it doesn't mean that a person who has a very funny sense of humor cannot be sad. Yeah? So every raga has the potential for portraying every emotion a human being can feel. It's just that they have a particular propensity for a particular emotion. Yeah? And so similarly, when you take the text of a composition in a raga, it will automatically push the meaning of that text through the prism of its personality. Yeah? Does that make sense?
So
Yeah.
now
Oh
this
boy.
begs the question. Now this begs the question. Can you show us a composition in two ragas that conveys different meaning? Any of them.
But similar lyrics, but
Same
conveys.
lyrics but different.
Or can you do the same text in two different
Right,
ragas?
right.
Or is that like sacrilegious though?
What have I done?
Thanks to Ron, he asked the question.
Huh?
oh,
That's a good answer.
It's a very valid question.
Okay. Look at this. So, आनंद लाल आतहि रसाल आनंद लाल आतहि रसाल निरतता संग गोपी ग्वाल आनंद लाल आतहि रसाल आनंद लाल आनंद लाल आतहि रसाल आनंद लाल आतहि रसाल निरतता संग गोपी ग्वाल आनंद लाल क्या ना yeah yes
Then in sort of the flip of that, if we associate, say, Hamsadhwani with happiness, how would one then draw sort of a sadness out of Hamsadhwani? And how would maybe someone, maybe like Darbari Khanna, how do you make that very happy and exciting?
That's a very good question. So the question is, how would you possibly draw sadness out of Hamsadhwani or happiness out of Darbari Kannada? Well, Darbari Kannada is easier. Yeah, you can make it quite happy actually. That Hamsadhwani is tougher. I haven't really thought about it. And some things are really hard. Like it's just very hard. Like
Well, and then would that be the mark of, is that supposed to be the mark of a good artist, that they would be able to take something like that, like Hamsadhwani, and make it sad?
is that a mark of a good artist? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I've heard an angry Yaman actually. So it's possible. It's not that it's not doable. Okay. Okay. Demonstration. क्या था वो? रूपक ताल में कुंतल वराई. Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so you know Kuntala Varali, right? All dancers know Kuntala Varali. So the raga itself, Sama pa ni da sa ni da ba ma sa, and everybody knows the tillanas and all that jazz, right? Na kaise kat dena dana kaise kat dena rana kalna para aata kaise kat So completely different emotion. Has such a quiet, peaceful emotion. And so it's very difficult to pull all emotions, any emotion out of any rag. It's not impossible, but very hard. But you can do things like this where certain ragas that have a very predominant emotion, if you slow them down or speed them up or think about changing the emphasis point, which note you take as the main note, completely changes the emotion. Different color will come out. Yeah. Yes, please.
Because hearing these two kind of thought processes, one way you want the artist to come back and do it in a different mood and all that. Is it ever recommended as an accomplished artist? Will that person will entertain a question like, why do you want to make a where it brings the sound of peace, you want to make it angry or things like that? Do you actually recommend this kind of cut and paste techniques?
Do I recommend bringing different emotions out of a rag, even if there's a predominant one? No. So it's not a question of recommending. It's a question of being in dialogue with the raga. So if on a particular occasion, that is the emotion that the raga is showing you, okay. There's nothing you can do about it. So that does happen. Like you think that you're getting a particular feeling out of this raga, usually, and you decide, okay, today I feel like it, I'll sing that. The raga has a completely different mind of its own. It shows some other emotion to you. And so, this really is a reflection of your own psyche, right? So there are probably emotions that are somewhere in your mind that want to show themselves through the spectrum of that raga. And so in that situation, if a completely orthogonal emotion comes out of the raga, there's nothing you can do about it. That's what's coming today. So that's what I'm saying. It's not that, okay, let me show that I can show, excitement in the body.
Audience can be of any kind of demand, especially in today's social media world. People will ask so many things. Maybe like made a chutney with some chicken, and they'll be asking for this kind of demands can come. Do you want to do that at all?
Oh, would I cater to the demands of the audience? No. No, I wouldn't. So basically, one of the things that is so completely misunderstood about this art form is that it's not a performing art. That really comes as a shock when people finally realize it. It's not a performing art. It's a sadhana. So it's a path for you to realize yourself. It's not about showing the world what you can do. It's about what you understand about yourself. So the more I sing a raga, the more I understand myself. Because that aspect of my personality becomes clearer to me. And so there's no point in saying, oh, this person wants this, so I'll do this and I'll get more likes. I don't like whatever. At the end of the day, can I make art that is meaningful to me and make me understand myself better? That's really the goal of this. And whoever asked about the Vedic sciences, that's the goal of almost every Vedic science. Whether you're talking about yoga, Ayurveda, Sanskrit, anything, the goal is self-understanding. It's not about showing the world what you can do. The world doesn't need to know. If I know what my relationship with the raga is, great. I don't care what anyone else thinks. That's, yeah.
I think it is a presentation, right? How you want to present it. Like you want to perform to show what you want to present to the audience. So it's a kind of performance, right?
It's not. So I think what I would say is that those of us who want to become performers find this a very useful avenue to develop our abilities as performers. It's a tool for developing that aspect of our personality. If you are a performer, you're able to use it to do great things. And so
What I'm
we are conveying a message, right? Either through words or through emotions as well, right? So, and that's where you trying to present it with your performance.
Okay, so this is a very good point you're making. So the question is, at the end, it is a presentation. You're presenting your emotions through the medium of the music. So the question is, how important is it to me that there's this room full of people listening to me? So what's more important is, if I'm able to figure out my relationship with a raga, automatically people will be drawn to come and listen to me. But if I'm obsessed about how many people are listening to me, then at the end of the day, it is a useless endeavor. Yeah, but if I am true to my own calling in it, then automatically this room will also appear. It's a side effect. It's not the ultimate goal. Like literally today, if one person had come, I'd still give the same presentation. It doesn't matter to me, right? What matters is that I have a very close relationship with the music. And because at least I feel I do. So that means that will automatically draw people to come and listen to me.
So my point is not like marketing it, it is expression. What I'm trying to say.
I totally understand. Yeah, I get it. I think you're making a very valid point. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I had one last. I mean, if that is the yeah. So then the question arises that do you start with a rag in mind when you write the composition, or the other way around?
Oh, it's a chicken and egg issue. So the question is, do you start with the composition words and then write the music in the raga, or does the raga suggest itself? It can happen either way. For me, it's mostly there's some corner of the rag that has been bothering me. So then I have to write it down, and then the words will suggest itself. That's my process, but someone else can have a completely different process.
So bringing this back to the Kayal then, I don't know how long you and Guruji and this gentleman here have practiced what you were going to present today, but you were taking different paths and you were displaying different things, and yet they seem to accompany you. Is that because of the practice, or is that because they knew what they had to? So what's the relation of the vocalist with the instrumentalist so that they are always, for the lack of a better word, in tune or in sync?
Yeah, the question is, do you need to practice as a group in order to present something like this, right? Essentially.
Right, more or less.
Yeah. So the first time somebody's called you a gentleman?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I hope one day he'll repeat that favor.
No, we don't practice this set or this kind of things. The reason why we can do this is because we share a grammar. That's the whole point. Indian classical music is the only form of music where people from all different points in the world can come together, sit on a stage and perform. It's because we share a grammar. Everybody knows the grammar. So there's no deviation.
So I have a question on that note. So if, let's say, one of the two accompaniments are overpowering than the vocal, why is that an issue for the vocalist? Like, let's say that Gamak is doing it better off than you. He is not aligning with you, but he is doing it even more nicer. So the focus will go on him.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that a problem?
It's not a problem for me. If he does it, I'll be very happy. The question is, why is it a problem if an accompanist overpowers the soloist? The idea is that the soloist is the carrier of the aesthetic for the evening or the concert. So the accompanists have to respect that role of the soloist. It's just like in any other form of, if you're doing Western classical music, if your accompanist, if your pianist overplays the soloist, it's a problem, right? It destroys the objective that the soloist has in presenting the music. So, someday he'll be the soloist and I'll sit in the audience and throw tomatoes. But that time he can do it. But right now it's my turn.
And
So
oftentimes when they're presenting, they do allow some
Portions to
to
shine.
Yeah.
to kind
Yes.
of show
Yeah,
what
yeah.
they can do, right? Like that's like a respectful exchange of.
Yes. I give him, he doesn't play.
He will.
He will. Also, he's the junior guy on stage, which is why he's getting ragged. So,
So who is he?
This is Rishi Bhattacharya. He's in high school. You're in what grade?
I'm in 10th grade.
He's in 10th grade. He started with Kishan and now he's been studying with me. So, yeah. He's come all the way. Anything else?
I guess we can call it a day. Thank you so much, everybody. And, we would like to keep this as an ongoing series, an ongoing opportunity for our community, not just SIMA members, but the Harrisburg greater community at large, to continue to be able to build a relationship with our traditional art forms. And we'll only be able to continue and flourish into something larger the more everyone is engaged with it. So as soon as we have our next one scheduled, we will obviously let everybody know. And remember that these are open to the public, they're free. So bring anyone and everyone who possibly can. I would like my basement to fall small for our events at some point. So just to reiterate, Saraswati Puja is on February 10th. I will send out the notification today. Please RSVP in advance, so we know, so we can make adequate arrangements accordingly. And I guess that would be all for today. So thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you.